Hello everyone, my name is Jeffrey, and today I want to discuss this mood of Nintendo fans, where we express how we just survived the biggest drought in Nintendo history, that the wait between Pokemon and Animal Crossing was so long that we had nothing to hold us over, and now with Animal Crossing out and no Nintendo Direct in sight, fans are in a frenzy. Truly it is a dark time and we have never experienced anything like this. Nintendo could have done all it could do with the Switch, and we have only big droughts ahead. Of course, that's blasphemous. We've had hundreds of games to play on our Nintendo Switches, and even then we had a couple games in the middle of the drought between Pokemon and Animal Crossing, one released 2 weeks prior to Animal Crossing. However, that got me to thinking, what truly was the longest Nintendo gamers went without a game from the big N? Has the Switch had the biggest drought and we did not notice? Well, that's the subject of today. I'm going to run through each Nintendo home console and show you the longest gaps between games in North America. The results just might surprise you. So before we start, we have to ask, what is a Nintendo game? For me at least, it is a product published by Nintendo. People can say only Zelda and Mario and Kirby and Pokemon, but I disagree. True, Zelda and Mario are the bread and butter of Nintendo, but Kirby's done by HAL Laboratory and Pokemon's done by Game Freak, as just a couple examples. A Nintendo published game gets the bigger draw, the bigger attention, even from third parties like Capcom or Bethesda. As YouTubers have pointed out,
so the most important part of a Nintendo Direct are the big first-party Nintendo games. Those are the ones most people are looking for. Those are the reasons people bought a Switch in the first place.
I'm mainly talking about exclusives here, either first-party or, if it happens again, third-party exclusives in the vein of Mario and Rabbids. Nintendo games, basically. Third-party overall is a bit of a wild card, and it could easily shake this whole thing up, but I'm going at this subject from a Nintendo-focused perspective, seeing as Nintendo games are, in my opinion, the most important thing on a Nintendo system.
So that's how I'm basing these Nintendo gaps. Now that we have the classification down, let's start from the present and work our way back. The Switch. Now as I discussed earlier, there was not a drought between Pokemon Sword and Shield and Animal Crossing. Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon are both published by Nintendo, and they fit in nicely in this timeline. So in truth, the biggest gap should be between New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on January 11th, 2019, and Yoshi's Crafted World on March 29th, 2019, a whopping 77 days between Nintendo published games. However, I will admit Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon are ports/remakes, so I will base the largest drought for the Switch at Pokemon Sword and Shield on November 15th, 2019, and Animal Crossing New Horizons on March 20th, 2020. That is a 126-day gap, a little over 4 months. And I won't deny, that is a long while between games, but was it the longest? Let's take a jump back to the poor, sad state of the Wii U. A lot of people may think this is obvious, that there were multiple droughts for the Wii U. However, surprisingly enough, Nintendo published games came out fine and dandy. There were some big ones, such as Devil's Third on December 11th, 2015, to The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD on March 4th, 2016, about 84 days apart. And we also go back to the launch of the Wii U with, among other games, the original New Super Mario Bros. U on November 18th, 2012. We then had to go to Lego City Undercover on March 18th, 2013, a large 120 days apart. However, we have to look at the end of the lifespan for the legitimate biggest gap. Between Paper Mario Color Splash on October 7th, 2016, and the Wii U swan song The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on March 3rd, 2017, that amounted to 147 days between releases. Nearly 5 months without a new game is quite tough. Will we find more in the Wii days? The Wii. Nintendo's bounce back, much to the chagrin of its hardcore fans. Now if you think they were nice to all the casual fans, they probably were with all the shovelware. However, dig with that shovelware and you'll find that Nintendo kept their unusual game gap streak even when they were successful. November 16th, 2008, a glorious day for fans as Animal Crossing City Folk and New Play Control Pikmin came out. Those are great games, right? I sure hope so, because there would not be another Nintendo published game till March 9th, 2009, a good 113 days later. And what did you get? 2 more New Play Control games, this time Donkey Kong Jungle Beat and Mario Power Tennis. Truly great times. Now the true gap between Wii games was the gap between Kirby's Dream Collection on September 16th, 2012 and Pandora's Tower on April 16th, 2013, a staggering 212 days. However, another rule I gave myself was any game that came out post a new console, I don't count. Priorities shift to the newest piece of hardware, so clearly games would not come out in the prior version. So with that disregarded, the biggest gap between Nintendo games was Mario Sports Mix, released February 7th, 2011, and Wii Play Motion, the sequel to everyone's favorite Wiimote pack-in trash, Wii Play, released June 13th, 2011. That total gap amounted to 126 days. Yes, the same amount of time we waited between Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Quite fascinating, don't you think? Now here we have every Nintendo fanboy's favorite console, the GameCube. It had it all: Mario, Kirby, Animal Crossing, 2 Metroids, 2 Zeldas, 2 Pikmins. And the spirit of twos, they had 2 big gaps. The first one I want to point out was towards the end of the GameCube's life cycle. Despite great games and a very cheap price,
For $99.99, you can get this Nintendo GameCube along with the best-selling Super Smash Bros. Melee game for free. I just love smacking that Princess Peach.
Rated teen.
the GameCube ended with a whimper. In 2006, while there were a handful of movie and TV licensed games to prop up our nostalgia for the GameCube, Nintendo only published 4 games. It started fine with Chibi Robo in February and ended greatly with Twilight Princess in December. However, there were 2 games responsible for the biggest gap for the GameCube prior to the launch of the Wii. That was Odama, a pinball game released April 10th, 2006, and Baten Kaitos Origins, a JRPG released September 25th, 2006. A total of 168 days, or 5.5 months, between 2 games you either have never heard of or are extremely niche. The other GameCube delay was at the beginning of its life cycle. After the 1-2-3 kickstart of Luigi's Mansion, Smash Bros. Melee, and Pikmin, Nintendo then gave us NBA Courtside 2002 on January 13th, 2002. While that was fine, I bet you all were ready for the next big Nintendo game. Well, you had to wait till June 23rd, 2002 to enjoy the cult mature-rated Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. That's only a week off from the previous biggest gap at 161 days. So yes, whether a console is niche or popular, Nintendo loves to stretch out their schedule. Moving to the Nintendo 64, there was a surprising lack of gaps. True, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Mario Party and Super Smash Bros. Each had a 77-day gap, but that came up pretty often on my analysis. When we traveled towards the beginning of the N64's life, that is where we found our biggest gap. February 28, 1997, the iconic Rareware blessed us with their next game, Blast Corps. 2 weeks prior to Blast Corps, we did have Mario Kart 64. Hopefully the Nintendo faithful had a lot of fun with cars for a good while, because they would have to wait till June 30th, 1997 for Star Fox 64. 122 days later is a long wait, but it is 4 days less than what Switch owners had to wait between Pokemon and Animal Crossing. That said, spoiler alert, this is the console with the smallest gap. Which moves us nicely to the Super Nintendo. The SNES enjoyed a great amount of success, going toe-to-toe with the Sega Genesis. And in 10 Don't You Believe It, the SNES had a good amount of gaps as well. Once again, I focus on games released prior to a new system, so anything post-September 1996, such as the 222-day gap between Street Fighter II Alpha and Harvest Moon, or the 153-day gap between Harvest Moon and Space Invaders, nope and nope. We need to travel back to 1995, where we see our old pals Rare again. They just gave us a sequel to their beloved Donkey Kong Country game on November 20th, 1995. Surely we would get the next great game soon and be heading to the N64 in style, right? Nope. It was stylish, yes, but it was not till May 13th, 1996 when we got Super Mario RPG from Square. Add that up to 175 days. That's the longest gap yet, prior to new consoles. It couldn't get worse than nearly 6 months, right? And we finally drop anchor to the console that started it all, the NES. Now before I reveal the final biggest gap, I have to say that the NES should be thankful that they had their Super Brethren come out in August of 1991. Because if not for that stipulation, there would be not 1, not 2, not 3, but 11 gaps of more than 4 months. Between March 8th, 1991 and August 31st, 2015, 15 NES games were officially released in North America. Now granted, those games that came out in the 21st century saw their releases under the Virtual Console banner, but the point still stands. Once again, those don't count, it's just a fun distraction. To see the truly longest gap between Nintendo games, not just for the NES, but all of Nintendo's current console history, where better than the start? October 18th, 1985, a gamer's dream come true. 17 games for launch, among them Duck Hunt, Ice Climbers, Excite Bike, and the piece de resistance, Super Mario Bros. This amazing, worthwhile, Nintendo will surely continue this momentum. Yeah, all I can say is you better have spaced out those games properly, because Nintendo did not release another game until June of 1986. where other Nintendo consoles could have third-party games to pad out their schedule? None of that here. No Game Boy equivalent to speak of either. 17 games was all you had for 226 days in North America. Truly quite the time to be a gamer. So in conclusion, we may have had to wait a long time for our current Nintendo game, and we may have to wait a long time for our next. But as long as we have games to play, and Nintendo is still plugging away, we don't need to grumble or fear. The Switch has got some amazing games coming in the future, but they have a lot of amazing games out now. Don't complain, start a new campaign.